But I got a problem. That's not a good thing to have. What we're up to today is going to be a continuation of the last video. Yesterday I spent quite a few hours cleaning up the back portion of the woods behind our house, and now we have a great view into our neighbors' pastures, and they got 4 beautiful horses that Deb feeds every day, and now we can actually watch them from our living room. But there they are right there. It's a 6-foot slider. We can see out there, and if I go up far enough over, you might be able to see all the way through the house, and Deb might be over there editing. Yep, I see her laptop. But what we found is, like, where Deb's sitting, that's where she sees. That's what she sees are those cedars. We have lots of cedars on the property. There's 3 big cedars over there. I like them for nesting for the birds, and because I think they're kind of a pretty tree. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I might trim the bottom branches so you can see through it. But I think I'm gonna take out those and leave the oak tree, take out these scrubby trees here, and kind of get the view from this open path here. I want to get that cleaned out that way. So I'm gonna try and do mulching today, and then also some chainsaw work, and then hopefully get to some wood chipping and chip up the bigger pieces in here. So even though the mulcher can't handle these cedar trees, it can take them down and chew up most of the limbs. Then I'll have less to chip. I'll just have the trunk left. I could just chop them down with a chainsaw, but then I'll have a whole bunch of mess. With this mulcher, I can just mulch up all that greenery. Well guys, I've heard this can happen, and it's never happened to me before on any of my tracked pieces of equipment that I've used. But I got a problem. I've been working some really thick brush in here, and I've been on an angle, and I don't know what happened here that was different than any place else, but that's not a good thing to have when you're not on flat ground. So that's doesn't look like that's going to be fun to fix. Thought I'd just grab that track and pull it out, but the thing's heavier than I thought. I'm gonna try and move it with one track. I don't think it's gonna work. Kubota to the rescue, I hope. I'm friends with Brock over at Rock Hill Farms, and he has rolled the track on his mini skid steer 2 times, if not 3. So I just sent him a text. I said, man, I'm gonna be FaceTiming you in a minute once I get this thing out of here. Luckily, I got a clear path to go that way. I wasn't deep into the woods here. I was going to drag that, carry that track out with me, but I picked it up and pulled it to where it is now, and I'm like, that's what tractor buckets are for. Okay, I'm gonna hook this chain to this tie down point over here, and my reasoning is that I don't have a track on this side, and it should help me pull it while the other track helps as well. So hopefully I can spin it around, get it going straight backwards. I might have to get Deb to drive the Kubota. All right, enough playing around. Got work to do. All right, well that part's working beautifully. I like that a lot. All right, I think I can get it out. All right, back up, pull, back up, pull. My chain came unhooked. Of course it did. Of course it did. No problem with the Kubota dragging it because, well, I say but it's surprising because it weighs as much as the Kubota. I had to put the Kubota in four-wheel drive and then it would just drag it right out of here, but I don't want to hurt anything. Just kind of look at it this way, it could have been worse. Works better with two tracks. This is working too. I really don't think you can hurt it now that it's out of the thick woods. It's on pretty flat ground there. You can see the idler arm is pushed out. Take out those bolts and see what I got to do to collapse that. We are back in business. I got the track put on with a little help from someone that was here doing some other work on our property. We're getting our vehicles detailed by a local company called Detail It. He came over here to tell me he was going to lunch, and I said, would you mind helping me put my track back on? And so he did, so that was a big help. It turned out to be quite a long process, so we separated that in a different video, but be sure to be out on the lookout for that. But if you look behind me, that's where that cedar tree started, right there at the beginning of the video. We cleared all this out here, and that's where that ditch is, and that's where the track came off, back there in that ditch. But there's a sizable ditch there that I didn't know. I knew there was a little hill of dirt here, but I'd never been back in through there. But I'm gonna leave these cedar trees and just cut the lower limbs. I'm gonna leave this oak tree, a couple of these oak trees, get some of this brush out, probably pull out that cedar because that blocks the view of the horse pasture. But we can already see the horses a lot better. It's actually real pretty to look through here. But I'm gonna get back on the Baumalight and clean this up, hopefully not throw another track. And then we're going to cut some limbs and probably end the video because I don't think I'm gonna have time today to do any wood chipping. So I actually called Brock from Rock Hill Farms and talked to him about how to put that track on. And it was not that hard a process. First of all, it's heavy, and this is a small machine. I couldn't imagine doing it on a full-size machine. But it's unyielding, meaning it doesn't stretch, it doesn't give, and when you put it on the rollers, it doesn't want to go over the sprocket. And it's just, I don't know, it's like pushing against a wall that you know you can't move. Like you're pushing and pushing, nothing's happening. So I'm glad I know how to do it. But I'm also okay if I never have to do it again for the rest of my life. And when our land clearing guy cleared certain parts of our property, he said, I think your property was terraced. And I think what they did was they bermed it or they cut ditches so water could flow, because this is the tall side of our property and then it slopes down there. But I am standing in the ditch, and it's not a deep ditch. It's maybe to my knees, so 18 inches or so. But in those last segments, whenever I would break over into this ditch, you would see that skid steer just kind of stand up on its end. And at one point, I had it not only, in the ditch with the tracks, but I had it sideways, and it wanted to tilt up and tilt forward. So it was sketchy. It was real sketchy doing this, and I didn't think it would be that big a deal, but it is. So all that to say is that these things are great machines on flat ground. You start to get into some uneven ground, then they can be a little bit more challenging. Okay, let me get back to work. I guess I'm procrastinating because I'm a little shook because that track came off, and I don't want that to happen again. That thing is addictive, man. You just get going. And Deb even said at lunchtime, she's like, I'm surprised you did that. And I said, well, our view is of their pasture, but our view is not of their two houses over there. I said, so I don't mind looking across there, seeing their horses, and also occasionally, you know, seeing them work on their tractor or whatever. What I don't want to see, right, is someone's back door or you know, where they park their car or anything like that. So we've got plenty of buffer left here. But let's talk about this Baumalight for a minute. It is just like it's made for this because you can't get a full-size skid steer in here. So the only other way you can do this is manually if you don't have something like this. I don't know what other machine can get in between here. And I filmed a lot of places where I had like a little tree growing right next to the big pine tree, and I would go right up to it once, you know, I can gauge it pretty good, and just shear that off and never touch the bark of the pine tree. A couple things I did. There's several trees that I nicked with the machine, and now some of that is my fault, 100% my fault. But Baumalight has this tree pusher on the front. You see it on the front, that big bar. And I had it in the shipping position, which is farther back. And they told me that they can't use my videos for promotion when it's in the shipping position. So I had to move it forward in the proper position. Well, when it's forward, sometimes you forget how wide it is. And you're going in this thick stuff. And I'm nicking a lot of pine trees. I'm looking right at two right here that are a prime example of that bar hitting them. When if that bar wasn't on there, I would have never have nicked these trees. And when you nick them, you know, this one's already sending sap to fix it. But that's a weak spot in that tree. And I've done that with some of the bigger trees too that I want to keep. So that's kind of aggravating. Not to say anything bad about Baumalight. That's the way they designed it. But that's just one thing if you're going to go out there and buy one or rent one or something to be aware of. Another thing is, I wish you could independently turn the tracks. You go in there and you got a joystick, and I'll walk over to the machine and show you the joystick. But it turns slow, and it's designed, and the manual tells you not to take the joystick and ram it to the right because it won't spin on a dime. But if it gets loose traction with one track, it will spin on a dime, and then it'll throw you into a tree. And I just wish, and I don't know how you can do that with one hand, but I wish there was a way to have independent tracks on it. So here's the joystick that runs the tracks, and what it does is if you push it forward, the machine goes forward. You can't tell it which track to stop and which track to turn like you can with an excavator. So if you take it and you go hard left, it doesn't have enough power to go hard left. It's trying to run that mulch head. It's just trying to do a lot of things, so it can't go hard left. So what you got to do is instead of going hard left, you got to push it right there, like forward and a little to the left. Well, you're trying to hold on for dear life sometimes, so you got this thing jammed over, and it's not moving, and then all of a sudden it's moving. So I don't know if all mini skid steers are like that, but that's why some of these trees have digs and scratches in them and cuts in them, because the machine would lurch to the left or the right. Now, when the machine lurches left or right controllably, it's great. That's what allows you to kind of maneuver up and around and not hit trees. But great machine. Just kind of pointing out some things there that I've seen. I've got 30 hours on it now, and probably 6 or 8 of them are all right here. That would be the before picture. And that's the after. I did that the other day, and then I did all of this today. All right, guys, it's dinner time, and as usual, I didn't get as much done in the video as I wanted to, but the track came off. That cost me some time, but at least I learned how to put on a track. I'm going to cut a few of these limbs here before I go in to eat, but until next time, y'all take care out there, and remember, life's short, tractor hard, and check out these 2 videos right here. They're pretty awesome.